We're up to 1988 in the story of my parents' lives. Time to move out of Eton Crescent and for my father to retire. This video has three distinct strands. First of all, it focuses on my parents as they move into an empty nest. And then we go back to the beginning again and we look at all of their grandchildren, because all 9 children had been born by the time they moved out in 2000. And then finally we look at the great gatherings of the family throughout those years, especially Christmas time. This first section focuses on my parents from when they moved to Richmond Mews in 1988 all the way through to moving to Cirencester in the year 2000. Dad was now the emeritus professor at Swansea University, but he never gave up absolutely on his pattern recognition. And baby David, the youngest of their 5 children, well, he'd finished university. So my parents had an empty nest. Eton Crescent was now too big for them, so they sold up. And on the same day that they sold, I think Dad was marched round to Richmond Mews by the estate agent and he bought it. It wasn't ideal in the sense that it had no garden and they were living on top of others, but it was great in that they were very close to their old life and friends. So the children all having left home meant that they'd all gone to England basically, and the trek to South Wales was quite long. I bought a house down in the Mumbles, there's a Bolt's Hole, so when one of the children did come to visit, it usually meant a walk. And here we have Mum at the Cliffs at Southern Down, and then with Caroline I think at Langland. And this is a trip to Rossilly with David. It was always a good trip to Rossilly. I'd love to be able to get my hands on that video there, but you can see it's a beautiful day, and Mum in particular loved the coast. David was now working in London town, and it was a good break for him as well. And I think my parents were in good health at the beginning of their time in Richmond Mews. It wasn't just the Gower. This is a trip to kind of forestry commission near Neath with Mum and Dad. I think they'd planted something in praise of the royal wedding. Dad was still a keen photographer, as you can see. This might be the River Wye. And Margam Abbey here with Caroline's friend Rachel. That was all very nice. Down to Oxwich Bay. We always like the little church which is just round the corner there. And then I think Mum and Dad sitting on a log in Clyne Park here. I was down quite a lot because I'd bought the place, and David came down. I think we all went on a boat trip, the old Balmoral, which used to make everybody horribly seasick. This was a trip around the Gower coast, and you got quite a different view of Swansea when you were out there. They'd started to develop Swansea Marina by now, getting rid of the old factories. And here's some lovely shots of Mum with Auntie Nancy, who'd been off, I think it's raspberry picking. Absolutely great fun. All the children would get visits from Mum and Dad because Dad was a great driver. Here we are in Greenwich, Margaret and Seamus. And did you know that Margaret won the Eltham Flower Show with her magnificent roses? Well, yes, she did. And this is David. He eventually went off to law college, which was the start of his spectacular law career. Here's Mum and Dad in our garden in Oxford, and then Mum going off to inspect Llangunnoed Church with brother Trevor there. And Mum would also go off to London town. This is, I think, a bunch of fellow economists. You can see now starting to get a little bit older. This necklace was bought on a cruise with Dad in the Mediterranean, so that was very nice. And here they are on a walking holiday in Switzerland with Betty and David Rees. In this section, we're going to go back to 1988, when my parents first moved to Richmond Mews, and when they only had one grandchild, Eleanor. And by the time they moved out, they had 9 grandchildren. They'd all been born by the time they moved out in the year 2000. So we're going to go through this in sequence. First of all, we're going to start off with Eleanor. Here she is, looking very well as a little toddler. And it wasn't long before her sister Annie was born. So Jenna had had her 2 children. Trevor and Jill were next up. They had Casey, who soon grew up into a little toddler, followed by James. So that was their family complete. Here we are at James's christening, and I think Katie was pleased to have a little brother, and that meant there were now 4 grandchildren to assemble. Margaret and Seamus were next up. They were living in southeast London in Eltham. Seamus was a lawyer, and here's little Megan come along to say hello to the world. Trevor and Jill, well, they'd moved to Switzerland, and here's a couple of Nice family shots, and you can see that little James, well, he's growing up fast, and Megan followed up, coming along very nicely. So the next time we got the grandchildren together, there were 5 of them, looking very happy, which is more than safe for Dad, who was a bit taken aback. Here's Annie and Megan, and I think Annie with Mum and Dad. So Janet and Jeremy had 2 children, Trevor and Jill had 2 children, and now Margaret and Seamus had 2 children. And here's Siobhan, come along, say hello to the world, and growing up very quickly indeed. So here we have David and James down by the river, and then Trevor and Jill and family came up to see me and Caroline because Thomas had been born, the first of our 3 boys. And you can see that Dad is very adept at handling young children. Nice picture here of all the Hansel boys, and here are a couple of the girls. We've got Megan and we've got Siobhan, so that's all very good.
Keep still, Siobhan, keep still now for Thomas. Keep still. Because,
So Mum and Dad, here they are with Thomas as a toddler. That's nice. This is just before Dad's 80th birthday in 1997. Here he is with Margaret and Megan, and the boys with the kids on their shoulders. And all Hansels love tractors. Yes, they do. Mum and Dad came up to Cirencester to inspect baby Daniel, the next baby on the production line, and here is he as a little toddler as well. And the last few photographs are just before and after Matthew's birth. Matthew is the last of my parents' 9 grandchildren, and shortly after his birth, they moved up to Cirencester. There were usually 2 or 3 family gatherings a year, and the biggest of these was Christmas Day. So we kick off here in 1988, the first Christmas in the new house. Turkey still looks absolutely magnificent, and a pretty good turnout. I think only Janet and Jeremy weren't here. You can see, following the good old rituals, here's Trevor and Jill. Trevor making some salient point. I think they look very well here. We then skip ahead a whole year, and this is 89, and it's the same formula. There's Mum, she's making a salient point now. David's sitting amongst all the debris of Christmas Day. He looks pretty happy, as does Margaret there. And Dad, yes, well, he's coming along nicely, and guess what he has to do? Yeah, another turkey. Well done, Dad. Janet's looking pretty quizzical here, so Janet's here now, but Trevor's not, and Margaret's looking pretty happy as well, and landing a big smacker on David. And then we must go ahead 2 years. This is brought David from London town, took Mum down to the Mumbles on Christmas Eve. Here's Margaret and Mum looking very well, and Seamus, well, Seamus loves ties. He can't get enough ties, so that's all very good. Here we are sitting around the table, which is now Margaret's house, so that's good to see, having a nice meal, and David looking fine and dandy here. There he is, David Hansel for you. And here's Trevor Hansel looking very quizzical, and with daughter Katie, so that's very nice. And Dad actually interacting here, taking a little bit of video. Here he is looking a bit grumpy in the kitchen, and even grumpier when Mum lands a smacker on him. James's christening was a big thing. I was honoured to be his godfather, and here he is with Mum. You can see that. Jamesy Wamesy, very good boy, and Mum delighted now with the first of her boys, and Katie, quite a character. Here's Caroline with James. That was all very good. And pretty shortly afterwards, I got married to Caroline. Here we are in July 92, and then moving on to Christmas in 92 in Oxford. So that was very nice. Boxing Day 93, and here are the 5 siblings. And here are my parents with grandchildren, which is very good indeed. Don't know who this odd bunch are here. And Megan on the phone there, and Annie having a bit of a wriggle. We're still at Janet's house here, and you can see the group is getting bigger and bigger. And it gets even bigger for Mum's 70th, because if you look carefully, you can see that Siobhan had been born. So that's the latest arrival to the family. Here's David with James, and then we've got Jenna with Jill. So that's all looking very good. Everybody on the bridge at Oxford, And here's Trevor with James. And we get a big group shot here now. Look at that. It's quite a big old gathering of Hansels here now on the bridge at Oxford. Very nice indeed. Christmas 94, there's David having a nice Vale beer. Dad looking very senatorial, if you ask me. And Mum showing off her necklace from her cruise. That's nice. Not many of us around the table now. And Mum beavering away hard in the kitchen, as ever, did all the work. And Dad, yes, he's got a turkey. What a surprise. This is Jonathan from next door. This happy bunch had gathered for Thomas's christening in February 96. You can see David behaving himself very well there. Here's a whole group of Hansel boys. And then we've got Jill, proud mother, to James and also to Katie as well. So that's all very nice. And I'm interacting strongly with Thomas here. We've got a full turnout on Christmas Eve 1996. And you can see now there are now 7 grandchildren. So the numbers are getting up all the time. And here they are with their parents.
It's a video camera. Katie and Megan. You two are cousins. Do you realise that? But you're both really Hansels. You're Hansel girls properly. You've got to be very proud of that. Yes, especially Megan. Oh, a very good girl. And Katie Waity. Queen of the Hansels. There she is. Yeah, very naughty girl if ever I saw one. Very, very naughty. You're a naughty girl. Oh, hey, hey. This is going to be called Feeding Time at the Zoo. Oink. This horrible looking bunch. Ramsey.
So we're up to Christmas 96. Here's Dad relaxing. It's not quite so relaxing when Thomas is ripping over presents. And Mum seems pretty happy as well. And here's a couple of nice shots with David with his nephew Thomas looking quizzically at each other.
You idiot. You standing there for a good 10 seconds and then you switch to video equipment.
Who's this being foul abused?
Completely useless.
Who's
He's
this?
standing up on his own now. Oh, he's just put it back down there.
Leaning against the pillar.
Oh.
What CDs have you got, Dad? What CDs have you got?
One is Stefan Grappelli,
Yep.
Michael Candela. The other is the best of God.
So which one do you like best?
They're not for me, these are
Obviously.
Margaret's.
Well, cameraman, show it to the camera because.
Oh, I think it's lovely.
Thomas, look.
I think it's lovely.
No, that's you.
He hated it when we did it. We tried to do his feet first of all. He screamed
I thought
like
they were
feet.
feet, but now they can see now their hands. It's your baby, John.
Same hands.
Left-handed too.
Think Thomas is left-handed?
Yeah. I know.
Hey. So if they collect, it's got 10 Jews on it.
What's a minute, John?
Oh, so, Mum, you don't have to take your glasses off.
Hmm?
Now look, is he a good boy or a bad boy?
It's lovely. Thank you, darling. We're John's son. But he's got his own identity, hasn't he?
Yep.
John?
We're up to Dad's birthday now, his 80th birthday in 1997. And as we get towards the end of this video, my parents' health was getting worse. They needed to be closer to family. So as both Margaret and I were in Cirencester, that seemed to be the next logical move. So we'll pick them up in the next video in their time in Cirencester together. Thank you for watching.